YouTube. Hello, it's me, Jilly. Patch 1.0.0.6 just dropped. Wanted to go over some of the fixes since there's some really eye-opening stuff and pretty great changes as well. For game balance, we have doubled the lifespan of minions and reduced the cost of minions. This is a huge change since the Ultimate Ranger build utilizes minions as a source of attack speed gains. With a longer lifespan and the Grim Armor set, a longer lifespan will just mean more overall DPS. Even upgraded books are very manageable now, so minion damage is even more likely to be relevant to the build. Instead of opting to use the non-upgraded book to manage mana a lot easier. So all in all, it just means more DPS output. Reduces the time to combine Crystal Skulls shards is great. Once I felt comfortable farming Malagaz because of his Rift Lens drop, I'd find myself all fired up with determination practically burning from my eyes, only to be standing there in my base, completely still, glowing blue for the next half hour. So, nice change, in my opinion. Reducing the cost of the giant slime, Gorm, and Hive Mother means farming for their drops early game is a lot more viable. Oftentimes, when I start a new world, even if one of these bosses has a drop I want, by the time I have the money to reliably farm them, I'm already like getting past the point where it's worth going back for them. So now with teleporters near bosses and a cheaper summoning idol, it's not unreasonable to farm for the ranger set from the slime, the flintlock musket from Gorm, even rift lenses from the Hive Mother, or just rare candy and mechanical parts, just as general drops from each. We also have reduced the effect of slippery movement. This is funny because my latest world had my first death was caused by the slippery movement. Something that I honestly it never really posed much of an issue for me before. So it took me by surprise when I stepped on the slime and couldn't tell if my keyboard had died or my game bugged out in the moment. So this is pretty cool to see as well. Boat handling was pretty brutal, so I'm glad to see this has been improved. I won't lie, my latest world, I spent as little time as possible in the boat, going out of my way to get boat speed gear and even upgrade them to make the pain of traveling via boat end as soon as possible. If it wasn't for how cool the legendary bow is, I would have spent even less time in the boat. So, seeing that they decided to improve handling is awesome. There's some performance fixes and bug fixes as well. I haven't run into all of these issues personally, like the first three, but oof, oh, uh, the fourth one in the bug fixes, scrolling through the hotbar is now disabled while quick swapping to a torch. Oh my good golly, gee willikers, this shit drove me up the wall. I thought I was going crazy at first when this would happen to me. I'd see my weapon and pickaxe were in totally different positions than I normally put them. It practically becomes a non-issue later in the game when you don't even need torches because of your lanterns, but early on, you'd find yourself holding out a torch, and as soon as you broke through a wall, only to see a bunch of enemies on the other side, you'd swap to your weapon and start smacking the enemy for like 1 damage and wondering why it's taking so long to kill it, only to see you've been hitting it with a dirt block the entire time. So, all in all, great change. The glitch waypoint not being super close to the core is great. I think that's great because it just makes more sense than having a teleporter that's like literally zipping you 10 feet to the left or to the right. So I think that's also a nice change as well. The client now correctly predicts health after damaging walls, which previously would cause a visual glitch where the player was inside the wall for a few frames. I don't think that really happened to me, and if it did, not too often, but it does sound like a good change. I'd hate to be someone's stepsister just stuck in the wall there. So oh, here's another great one. This is something I saw. So I saw this morning actually. I was checking the comments on some of my videos, and someone pointed out that the pet does gain XP, like the bird pet. I thought for sure the bird pet doesn't gain any XP from killing mobs, because I kept running into that issue. I wouldn't see it gaining XP, and I saw the comment this morning that said it can still gain XP, but only through melee or something like that. And so well, the comment said melee, but I'm assuming it was obviously more than just melee. It was it was specifically range player attacks was not gaining XP, but also minion attacks. But obviously, 1.0 introduced the minion stuff. So I thought I was going crazy at first. Fixing the issue with the range player attacks for the first half of my playtime since 1.0 dropped, I was genuinely back and forth trying to figure out what they changed. I honestly thought they just made it so pets no longer gained XP through defeating monsters, and it could only be gained from candy and beast boosters. But the whole time it was because I was using ranged weapons and a bird, which is my usual combo. Turns out that was bugged, and now pets will gain XP through ranged attacks, and even minion attacks count as well. So that's great. Great, great, great. Amoeba bombs no longer cause double explosion effects. Hatching an egg no longer shows the wrong inventory sprite for one frame. Leashes no longer go crazy when the player teleports using the Rift offhand item or enters a minecart. That one sounds kind of funny. I wish I got to see that happen. Dynamite explosions now chain correctly. I never really used dynamite, but I imagine for players that do, this is probably a huge relief for them. Dynamite packs no longer drop several times after being defeated or destroyed by Gorm. Okay, fixed mannequin position glitch. Stone turrets no longer spawn facing the wall in desert mazes. That sounds nice, right? I never really noticed this because every time I'm at the point of encountering a desert maze, I can usually just mine through the entire thing. So I'm usually just in from one side and out the other. Entering the game while guest mode is active no longer makes the player immune to damage. That sounds wild. So it sounds like players were essentially invincible if they wanted to exploit that. Players added as admins no longer have inventory restrictions when guest mode is active. And connecting with a new character to a server with guest mode enabled no longer breaks the intro sequence. Added missing user connected message translation, trying to recreate the game ID before the backend playfab login was successful, no longer causes an error. Fix an error when a client got disconnected when the player stats window was open. I think I had I'm pretty sure I had an instance of that happening where my teammate had left the game or something, and I was looking at my stats window just after beating a boss, and my entire game just bugged out. It looked like I was under the map, and even when I relogged, I was still under the map. It's kind of a freaky moment because I was like, oh, is this no longer playable for me? Added missing UI when receiving certain network errors. Fixed a bug where the connection error pop-up sometimes would not be displayed. Fixed a crash where trying to place some invalid objects. The Great Wall no longer reappears in some very old classic worlds. That one's interesting. Tome of Dead item description no longer incorrectly claims that minions are targetable. Doors now correctly revert to their open-close state if it is mispredicted by the client. That probably explains why I often get the door shut in my face and it looks like I don't know how to use a door. Switching from mouse to gamepad while in a menu no longer leaves the menu with no selected option. Cattle are no longer visually behind the feeding tray when eating. Sledgehammers are now affected by the self-mending alloy skill. Fix some mods making the game unable to start. Steady feet talent now correctly reduces slippery movement. Pets and minions now correctly attack vulnerable Hydra bosses. That one seems great because I'll admit there were times I would be fighting these bosses and I would just happen to notice that my minions were literally just napping while I was fighting for my life. Removed loot drop delay from destroying single hit objects and enemies. And we have other fixes here too. Overall, any fixes are obviously great. The game ran smooth enough for me since 1.0 with only a couple real issues and a few annoyances here and there, but with these fixes happening so quickly after 1.0 released, it's pretty nice to know that they quickly got on their feet, began problem solving as quick as they did. It's impressive, and for the players, it's reassuring to know the game we're enjoying so much is being taken care of in a timely fashion. And that's it. That's it for 1.0 0.0.6 patch notes. If you guys ran into any similar problems as me, or there's something in here that got fixed but caused you a tornado of trouble before the fix, let me know down in the comments. I love hearing how those kind of stories play out. If you did enjoy the video, a like is super appreciated, and also consider subscribing. We'd love to have you. And that's it. Okay, bye bye. Bye bye.